It's time to talk New York Giants football for the 2023 season. And that means Ryan Dunleavy's back from the New York Post. How's it going, Ryan?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's time. It goes by quick, doesn't it?
It does, especially here where the Jets are going to start a week before everybody else. So my summer is a week shorter because before I go to Giants training camp, I'll get 2 Jets training camp practices in.
Are you going to the Hall of Fame?
To the game? No. I'll just go to the training camp practices before the game.
That's better.
Costello will go to the game.
Yeah.
I've never been to the Hall of Fame. I'd love to go, actually. I would love to go, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I would think going to a Hall of Fame game is probably a lot more enjoyable than watching it. So the whole experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of the worst times to go to the Hall of Fame because it's probably super crowded. But I would like to go to if I ever am in, it's probably closest to Cleveland, right? If I am ever covering a game in Cleveland, I'll try to make my way over there. I've never been. I'd like to go.
All right. So,
although I will say, I don't think it has the appeal, Greg. I don't know. I don't think it has the same appeal of the Baseball Hall of Fame. There's something about the Baseball Hall of Fame feels majestic. I don't know about the Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where the Baseball Hall of Fame, to me, I think is a little bit more, I mean, if you're a baseball fan, it's about whoever's there, you're into it. Football, it's like, if your guy is not there, I don't really care that much. Yeah. Unless it's like a real superstar guy, somebody that, with charisma.
There's such a romanticism of the history of baseball, too.
Yeah.
Like, something about like, I could go see Babe Ruth's bat or whatever. Like, sure. I don't feel the same about like Otto Graham's cleats.
No. Yeah, I don't think that works that way. No, you're right about that. Okay, so still have a little bit of time, but we're just a day or two, a few days away, and then everything's going to really start ramping up here because we're recording this a little early. But this is still coming up on the big day, which is going to be on Monday for the decision, the Saquon Barkley decision. So I'm going to ask you 2 scenarios. 1, Barkley signs the deal.
The tag?
The tag. What would your impression be if you find out he signs the tag, and what is that going to do to impact the Giants and Barkley?
My impression would be it's probably the first week of September if you're telling me that he signed the tag, because I don't see him signing the tag by Monday. I think if he doesn't have a long-term extension worked out by Monday, I think this will drag into why would he come to training camp? If you're not going to reward him with the extension, why is he going to put his body through training camp? I think he'll show up the first week of September and say, if he has a sense of humor about it, I'll say, running backs don't really matter anyway, right? So here I am the first week of September. So I do not expect that the Giants will get their full way of paying him just the tag with no long-term commitment, and then he's there that first week of camp. And remember, he can't get fined, unlike, say, Quinnen Williams, who wants a new contract, but it's under contract.
Yep.
And can't get you now. Quinnen can't hold out anymore. Players have to hold in by coming up with injuries that they can't practice. Saquon can't get fined, just like OTAs and minicamp. He's not under contract, so he's not forced to be there because he's not signed.
Okay, so then let me rephrase the question another way. Let's go with the assumption, the scenario that Barkley signs the tag and is going to play week 1. How does that impact the player? And based on what you think is how it's gonna impact the player and the team.
Playing on the tag?
Yep.
Well, I mean, then I think they'll have had a whole training camp mostly without him, so that'll disrupt their rhythm. It'll be a total locker room distraction because he'll be unhappy. Unhappy star player, unhappy with the team, makes for a lot of awkwardness. He's a team guy. He's going to want to win. He's working his butt off at Exos. I just had a story for the Post last week about taking people inside his training, what he's doing, kind of motivated by getting caught from behind in the Eagles playoff game last year. So he's been dedicated to getting his speed back while his teammates are doing all the playbook stuff that he can't be doing in the facility. So I think there's actually there can be some benefits to him having an offseason focused on him versus the team. But if he's playing on the tag, it's going to be the number one. He's going to be asked about it every day. His teammates are going to be asked about it every day. It's going to become the dominant story around the Giants. Maybe they can survive that, or maybe that pulls them down a little bit and takes away from the focus on winning, which is the last thing Saquon wants to happen, but business is business.
So because I have so many other things I got going on in sports. I try not, and I know we talk about contracts very little whenever we have you on, and I talk about contracts very little, period. But what is the bottom line choice for Saquon now? Is it sign the tag, he plays for the year, or is it he has the option, obviously, then to sign a long-term extension? They agree to a long-term deal, or he doesn't sign it and he doesn't play. And if that happens, then he just doesn't play this year. Is that how it works?
Those are the three options. So the least likely option is he goes full Le'Veon Bell and sits out the season.
Sure.
I can't on any way. Le'Veon Bell's the only one who's done it. Melvin Gordon tried to do it, couldn't do it. Basically came back after 4 games and it ruined his career. So I don't see Saquon under any circumstance sitting out the season. Plus, you don't get paid then, so he'd be giving up the $10 million. The second option, obviously, is the one we just discussed, where he plays on the franchise tag and reports at some point between July 26th and week 1. I think much closer to week 1 than July 26th, and certainly after all the preseason games are done. And then the option that probably should happen is the two sides reach agreement on a multi-year extension. There's been a lot of reporting out there that Saquon, including from me, that Saquon turned down a contract that averaged $13 million per year, another one that averaged $12.5 million per year. It all takes away from the idea that not what matters in a running back contract is not the average per year. It's not the same as any other position because of the wear and tear. What matters is the guaranteed money in the contract. No one, including me, has reported what the guaranteed money in the Giants offers to Saquon has been. I think it's very clear that the guaranteed money hasn't been good, or we would have a contract agreed to already here. So that's what the holdup is. If Saquon plays on the franchise tag this year and next year, then he'd be guaranteed $22.2 million. Derrick Henry on his 4-year contract extension got $25 million guaranteed in the first 2 years. So I think you're looking at that range right there as what Saquon wants. More than 22, maybe in the ballpark of Derrick Henry's 25. You could say he's not as good or productive as Derrick Henry, but that was also 2 years ago.
Sure.
So players, 2 years later, are looking to push forward the market. So I would say that if the Giants got to that market, they'd probably have a deal, and it's going to depend by Monday of next week if they want to get to those kind of guaranteed numbers.
Do you have a best guess on that?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay. Do you agree with that strategy?
I do not. As anybody who's listened to your show or reads my stuff or follows me on Twitter knows, yeah. I am a proponent of talent, and I believe that talent wins. I don't care if you play running back. I'll go on my rant like I always do. Like, I don't care. The devaluing the running back is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you need talented players to win. Fine if you want to tell me that the Vikings don't need Dalvin Cook because they have Justin Jefferson, or fine if you want to tell me the Cowboys don't need Zeke Elliott because they have CeeDee Lamb. The Giants' best player is a running back. That is what it is. They've had 5 years to get a better player. They don't have him. He's their best player. They need him. I don't care about paying a running back. Don't tell me about Isaiah Pacheco and how the Chiefs win because Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce aren't on the Giants.
Yeah.
So I don't care that the Chiefs or Tom Brady won Super Bowls with low-paid running backs. Well, yeah, if you have Tom Brady, you don't need Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
But you don't have Tom Brady.
Yes.
Don't tell me about Super Bowl winning teams with low-paid running backs and give me some bullshit stat because that stat doesn't include the fact that Ray Rice made $17 million the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl, but $15 million of it was a signing bonus. Only $2 million of it was salary. So you can manipulate your stats so that it looks like he was only paid $2 million that year, or that the Seahawks won a Super Bowl with Marshawn Lynch as their leading rusher when he was making $8 million a year, but because Percy Harvin was the leading rusher in the actual Super Bowl game, Marshawn Lynch doesn't count in that stat. So it's just total nonsense. Like, I get it. Running backs have short shelf lives. Not every team needs a running back. This team needs its running back because he is their best player.
How are the fans feeling about it?
Sticking with the tag. That's how they feel. They want him. They want him at their price. And look, that's good business sense. It makes sense, right? If you can, why pay somebody more than you have to? Not just in football, in any genuine walk of life. Why pay your Walmart cashier more than you have to pay your Walmart cashier? But that's a very detached fan way to look at it. That's not considering what things that John Mara, Joe Shane have to consider, like the message it sends to your locker room when you don't reward a guy who has played through injuries, who's been here through bad times, who's lifted everybody up, who does all the autographs, who's your most popular jersey in the stands with fans. There's a lot more to consider than just stick the guy with the tag and have the lowest salary cap number.
It's the elephant in the room. It's a big story for this franchise moving forward, no question about it. And we'll see how it all plays out. But your best guess is you believe they're just gonna wind up maybe signing him for the next 2 years, tagging him for the next 2 years, and then maybe now, because what usually happens, and I'm not sure, I haven't looked at it.
I can't say they're going to tag him next year because, next year, who knows? He could underperform.
Sure.
This
Anything
year.
Can happen. Yeah.
I think they're going to make him play on the tag this year, and it's going to get ugly.
And I haven't looked at it. I don't know if you have, but it feels to me like about 90% or close to 100% of the players that get into this whole tag business end up leaving. But they don't usually stay. And again, I haven't looked at it, but it just feels that way.
That's probably true. Yeah. Regardless of position, when you're tagged, you usually aren't tagged a second time. Kirk Cousins was, but even he left after 2 tags. Just this past year, I know Jesse Bates was tagged for the Bengals and signed with the Falcons. Yeah. Usually after 1 tag, you end up leaving in free agency. Okay.
So that's Barkley, and it is going to still be big news. I'm sure it'll be big news again, even on Monday because of the day, but it's still going to be the talk of camp for the Giants and the preseason. Let's take a look. And of course, the other player who did get paid, Daniel Jones. And he had such a huge year that this is going to be an even bigger year. The old kind of, all right, you did it once, prove it to me, because if you do prove it to me year 2, then we've got something here. We've got something here long term. That's what the Giants hope. What does Daniel Jones have to do to be a better quarterback, especially if Barkley, again, we're going to anticipate Barkley's going to play. But just overall, what does he need to do to be a better quarterback?
I mean, he has to push. He has to be more than a ball protector. Last year, he was he protected the ball. He was a game manager. I don't know how many winning plays Daniel Jones. He didn't make losing plays, which hampered him the first couple years of his career. Last year, he didn't. He cut that all out basically, and he he made good plays with his legs. He made smart decisions, but he wasn't. If you gave the Giants the ball with 1.5 minutes left, he wasn't picking apart a team, driving you down for the game-winning score. So I think that's what he has to make more explosive plays. They've given him much better weapons, Darren Waller, Paris Campbell. They've upgraded the speed of the team. I don't know about the offensive line. I'm not as convinced as everybody else that it's much better than it's been. But they've certainly given Daniel Jones the weapons. Saquon is a huge part of that. Saquon is the reason that Daniel Jones is able to run the RPO as well, because you have to worry about Saquon. No offense to Matt Breida, but if it's Matt Breida in the backfield with Daniel Jones, you're pretty sure that Daniel Jones is going to keep the ball. So, yeah, he just honestly, he has to make more plays, and you don't want to just dumb it down to the box score, but you don't pay your quarterback $40 million a year to throw 15 touchdown passes, which is what he threw last year. I mean, if he's throwing 27, but they're all in garbage time, that doesn't count.
Sure.
So you don't want to dumb it down to the box score, but you need to look at him and say, wow, he is the reason Giants are winning games. He is playing at a near Pro Bowl caliber level. That's what he has to do.
And it is fair to talk about the talent or the lack of talent that he had surrounding him last year. And
not just last year, for 3 years.
Yeah. So even though he had the big breakout, and again, we're keeping that to a minimum because of how poorly he looked previous couple of years. But now is the time, and he has the weapons, and that's why I said opening up, this is that really big season for him to prove that he can take it to that next level. So as far as camp, and that's really what I want to talk to you the rest of our time. Let's talk about, you mentioned the running back position. So Breida, is he definitely the number 2? What does Eric Gray have to do to beat him out? Can he beat him out?
I mean, to start training camp, Matt Breida will be the number 2. At the end of training camp, he might not be the number 2. Again, I mean, this is what other than the special running backs, the Saquons, the McCaffreys, the Cooks, the Camaras, fresh young legs at running backs matters. And that's what Eric Gray offers that Matt Breida hasn't. I think Matt Breida hasn't had more than like 85 carries, I think it is, in the last 3 seasons. He's a backup running back at this point. I know everybody who had him on fantasy teams in like 2018 or 19 remembers him. That Matt Breida is gone. He's a nice, he's a nice pinch hitter, basically. So there's certainly a chance if Saquon's not there that Gray becomes the focal point, number 2 guy. He's a 3-down back. He can pass protect. He can catch. The Giants like him from that regard. So yeah, I think they've been throwing the entire playbook at him, not easing him in any regard. So I think there's certainly a chance that Eric Gray, by the end of camp or early in the season, is the Giants, there'll still be a room for Breida as a veteran, as a presence, as maybe a guy on a short yardage who has the experience to know what to do. But if Saquon is out for a game or needs a spell, the main running back, I think, will be Gray pretty quickly.
And at tight end, we know you just mentioned Waller, so we know the situation there now, and that gives them more depth with Bellinger after being able to start as a rookie last year. Does Cager have a chance to be, because I know as a Jet fan, I know what he had to do, and he made the switch from wide receiver to tight end, and he made plays in the preseason, and he looked interesting, but the Jets couldn't hold him. The Giants took him, and from what you've seen, does he have do you think he has the ability to be a decent role player?
Yeah, as a number 2 or number 3 tight end, yeah, sure.
Okay.
As a pass catching tight end, yeah, but on this team, he's not really, and barring injury, he's not really going to get much run. I mean, they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, and they're going to run a lot. I mean, Waller is their number 1 receiver.
Sure.
Forget that he plays tight end instead of receiver. He's going to be in the slot, flexed out. He's their number 1 tight end. He's their number 1 pass catcher, and then Bellinger will be on the line as the tight end on the end. So. Yeah, I mean, I guess Cager has some potential there as a pass-catching tight end. He's never going to be like a every down, put your hand in the dirt tight end. I don't see that. But as a role player with some athleticism who could cause some mismatches, yeah, I think so.
Okay, wide receiver. Now, this is going to be interesting. Are there right now, how many locks? Are we looking at 5 locks? 6 maybe?
Great question. I think you just asked, other than Saquon, probably the most interesting question of training camp for the Giants. I think you just hit on. So I got to pull up my roster so that I don't miss anybody. All right. So the locks, undoubted locks to make the team at wide receiver are Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Mondale Robinson, Darius Slayton, and Jalen Hyatt. So five locks to make the team. Now, Wandale Robinson could start the season on IR, could start it on PUP. One of those things where, he's out for the first 3 to 6 games of the regular season because he's still coming off the knee injury. The torn ACL he suffered, I think after Halloween, around November. So there's a chance that he's a lock for the roster, but not a lock for the opening day 53, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So same thing applies to Sterling Shepard, who, if he's healthy, I think will make this team. There's a chance he suffered a torn ACL last September. He's ahead of Wandale in his rehab. Sterling Shepard's one of the most popular guys on the team, longest tenured guys on the team. When he plays, he's Daniel Jones's favorite target. There's a sentiment among some fans online that Sterling Shepard's going to get cut. I find that's very hard to believe. I would put him as the 6th lock to make the team, but again, in the same boat as Wandale Robinson, where doesn't necessarily mean he's active week 1, but I do think he's on the team. So I do think that's 6 wide receivers who make the team right there. And then, so now you're talking about Jeff Smith, who is a special teams guy. Could he make the team? Yeah, he could. The 7th guy, that's somebody Jets fans are familiar with. David Sills is a practice monster every year. It hasn't translated to the regular season. Are they ready to give up on him? There's nothing more he can do in practice to show that he can play in games. It hasn't translated to games. I guess they could put him back on the practice squad. Jaden Mickens has some return ability. Same thing with Pimpleton. Honestly, the guys, Jamison Crowder here is a guy who could get cut, and that's stunning because for 2 years ago, he would have been like the Giants' number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
That shows you how far they've come at receiver. That a guy of Jamison Crowder's ability could get cut when they were throwing the ball to, CJ Board last year and 2 years ago. And then I guess there's a chance, Crowder could make it, but especially if some of those other guys are banged up. Bryce Ford Wheaton, they gave a lot of money to as a UFA. He's 6'3", which they don't have a lot of. But again, he could be a victim of the depth. I'm sure they'd love to tuck him away on their practice squad.
Sure.
And then I know I'm missing one guy who's interesting. Colin Johnson had a monster training camp last year.
Okay.
Tore his Achilles and didn't play all season. Came back in OTA's minicamp full strength after his torn Achilles and had a monster spring. So, is he going to be the next David Sills where he's a practice monster that doesn't translate? Or is he actually like an uncovered gem? Giants fans are always looking for their next Victor Cruz, the undrafted guy who who bursts onto the scene. Colin Johnson looked unguardable in training camp last year and in the spring this year. I don't know where his spot is on the team. Maybe it's if other guys are injured, he doesn't have special teams value. So that hurts his ability to be a back end of the roster receiver. But there is definitely untapped potential there.
Yeah, and I'll tell the Giant fans out there who don't follow college football like I do. When I watched Colin Johnson play early on in his college career, I was like, wow, this guy is going to be a really good pro. I mean, he made some really great plays. He was playing for a top team in Texas, and it just looked like he had everything you were looking for. But you know what? We see a lot of those guys in college, and they don't all translate. And then I just felt, all right, I guess he's one of those guys. But hearing what you had to say about how he's looked so far in camp last year and spring this year, it's intriguing. I'd like to see him get the opportunity, especially anybody coming off an injury. Hopefully he'll get that chance. So, all right, offensive line. So are we dealing with Schmitz is going to, that's his job, right? No ifs, ands, or buts. He's the starting
I
center.
mean, he's got to win it.
Sure.
He's got to win it. Daboll is one of those coaches who he's not going to hand anything to a rookie, so he's going to make him earn it. But yes, he's unless he's a total flop in training camp. And I've seen that happen before. They wanted Matt Peart to beat out different coaching staff, same team, wanted Matt Peart to beat out Nate Solder at right tackle 2 years ago. That by all he had to do was be competent at right tackle, and he would have beat out Nate Solder 2 years ago, and he couldn't do it. So I've seen it happen before where the young guy, it's his job to lose, and he loses it.
True.
So, but Schmitz, for all intents and purposes, will be the starting center, which then means there will be a competition at left guard between Ben Bredesen, who is the other option at center, and Josh Azudu, who was picked by this regime, which always matters, gives him an upper hand, and Shane Lemieux, who was a favorite of the last regime, but has played one game in the last 2 seasons because of various shoulder, ankle, leg injuries. 2 games, maybe 1 or 2 games in the last 2 seasons. And then, so those are the 3 guys there at left guard.
What's the status that you know of regarding Azuda's neck?
He was out there in OTA, so I assume it's
great.
Okay.
Good. Okay. And then the big one is Evan Neal.
I mean, he's the right tackle. If they're going to live or die with Evan Neal at right tackle, he's not getting replaced. So it's just a question of how good he is. I mean, he was not very good as a rookie, certainly not worthy of his draft status as a rookie. He's been working with Willie Anderson, the former All-Pro, Pro Bowl offensive tackle for the Bengals, who's a personal trainer now. He's been working with Anderson quite a bit. He changed his stance. I don't know. Does that matter? It mattered for Anthony Volpe as the Yankee shortstop to change his batting stance on fire. Changing your right tackle stance matter? We'll find out. I mean,
yeah.
It certainly is something he can point to and say, this is where I'm getting my confidence from. Now that this is fixed, I'll be good. So we'll see if that works.
Of course, we talked about this already. Having Don Martindale back, just such a huge deal for the Giants. So we take a look at this defense, and there's a lot going on in offense. On defense, is there one like really significant camp battle that we need to be keeping an eye on?
I mean, what happened? Yeah, sure. I'll give you a couple, actually.
Okay.
I mean, safety, they lost Logan Ryan 2 years ago. Julian Love stepped in and played really well. I mean, he almost didn't miss Logan Ryan. Julian Love played so well on special teams and at safety. And now he's gone in free agency. So now the other safety job is they didn't really replace him. It's either Bobby McCain, who was a part-time starter for the Commanders the last couple of years, or in-house options Dane Belton and Jason Pinnock, the Jets former Jet cut. That guy's going to start next to Xavier McKinney. That's a pretty big question mark. And then
by the way, before you move on, I want to stay at safety there because McLeod played a ton of snaps last year.
And McLeod. McLeod is another guy. He was technically like a nickel cornerback last year. I should mention him. They moved him to safety now permanently.
Okay.
So he's in the mix to start there as well. So that's McCain, McLeod, Belton, and Pinnock. Belton and Pinnock didn't play in the spring, so we don't know how they figured into the mix.
And of course, you never know about 7th-round draft picks. So we don't expect that to happen, but you never know. Okay, and I'm sure the Giants would absolutely love Belton or Pinnock to win that job.
Or McLeod.
Or McLeod.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead. Corners.
And then corners, they have Adoree Jackson as their number 1 corner, who I don't think gets enough credit as a number 1 corner. They expect Deonte Banks to be the other outside corner. Again, nothing's handed to a rookie, but they want him to win that job. And then that will leave a very interesting slot corner battle between Darnay Holmes and Cordell Flott. Cordell Flott was better as a rookie on the outside than he was in the slot. Darnay Holmes has made some big plays, but hasn't really gotten much better. So they're probably on even footing, and Flott has the much more affordable contract. Holmes has the rookie escalators that make his contract like $2.5 million. The Giants
Okay.
are in a salary cap pinch. So if you have to keep just one of those guys, do you keep the guy making like $700,000 or $2.5 million?
Yeah.
So Holmes is going to, I think, have to significantly outplay Flott to win that job, and winning that job might be the only way he stays on the team, even though he's better than some of the other guys they have behind him. Unless he's willing to take a pay cut, then you start talking about losing your job for just for the reason that you make too much money.
Okay.
So,
and they brought the kid in from Detroit.
And Amani Oruye, he had like 6 interceptions 2 years ago, fell off last year. I think he's a total wild card. Like, I think I think he could be in the mix to be an backup outside cornerback, but I don't know that even they know what they're going to get out of him after last season.
And at linebacker, now what is this? What is the? I know not every team, of course. There is no such thing anymore as a base defense. But if the Giants had one, what would it look like up front? 5-2, 4-3, 3-4,
3-4. 3-4. Yeah, okay. But again, you're right. They do so much 2-5, and the strength of the Giants' defense is the defensive line. They have Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams. Now they have Ashawn Robinson, Raheem Nunez, Roches. They have 4 pretty good run-stopping interior defensive linemen. Obviously, Williams and Lawrence are 2 of the best in the NFL. They need to play less than the 85% of snaps they were playing last year that wore them down. So they bolstered the depth behind them with Robinson and Roches, and Roches, who they call Nacho. Then the edge rushers, who are technically outside linebackers, would be Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau. And I guess technically, no, their base is a 4-3, not a 3. Their base is a 4-3 because you would put – it's so confusing. Like you said, nobody does it. The base is a 4-3 because it's Thibodeau and Ojulari on the edge with Lawrence and Williams in the middle. So I guess technically, yes. So I guess technically that's their base. And then the inside linebacker, they have
Jared Davis,
Bobby Okereke is the starter. That was their, or actually it's Okereke is how it's pronounced. That was their big free agent splash, a 4-year, $40 million contract to be a tackle machine, make some plays. He was their big free agent splash. And then the drop off there is significant. You can make a case that he might be one of the most irreplaceable players on either side of the ball, because the drop from Okereke, the number 2 linebacker in camp, was Jared Davis. In spring was Jared Davis. Jared Davis in week 16 of last season was on the Detroit Lions practice squad. And he ended up starting a playoff game for the Giants, and then they had a whole offseason and didn't replace him. So he is the number 2 guy. I think push comes to shove, they want that to be Darian Beavers, who missed the whole last season with an injury, or Micah McFadden, who played last season. But right now it's Jared Davis, and he'll be pushed by those 2 young guys. Bottom line, you don't want any of those 3 guys on the field too often. You want Okereke as your main linebacker with the defensive tackles who are studs, the edge rushers, and then 5 defensive backs.
Would Beavers be, if you were looking at a player, not a household name, who hasn't played a whole lot, would he be like at the top of the list of guys to keep an eye on?
Oh, he was having a good camp. I think he was in line to start. He's basically what forced Blake Martinez out of the Giants last year and into retirement. And then he got hurt towards the end of training camp. Again, he's a late round draft pick. So you hesitate to say he's going to be a stud, because if he was, odds are as those guys are always great stories, right? The late round draft pick who becomes a star. How did the league miss on him? More often than not, the league is right, and late round draft picks are not special. So maybe the Giants have lightning in a bottle with Beavers. But yes, he's certainly, considering he hasn't played a snap in the actual NFL regular season, certainly an unknown guy to keep an eye on because they do want him to be a starter.
Anybody uh, during the spring that stood out? Are any whispers about an undrafted player or someone that you know what, it looked good without pads on. I'm gonna see how he looks now though. Just now it's for real. One of those
Well,
guys.
I gave you Colin Johnson. I think is a guy
Yes.
that created a lot of buzz.
Anyone on defense? Because there
Uh,
are some players there that have had good college careers and played some big time football, but Jamon
I mean,
Green.
like I said, McLeod's position change was very interesting.
Okay.
Uh, McFadden, I think, like I said, he
Yep.
struggled last year. He struggled last year. They have high hopes for him. I think we pretty much touched on. I don't think I missed anybody on defense. I think that their defense is much more set than I think their offense is. So,
Okay. All right. So, and special teams, everything is set, right? Punter, kicker, no surprises there.
punter and kicker are the same. Graham Gano, one of the absolute best in the league. Punter is Jamie Gillen, who really struggled at times. It was very inconsistent last year. Boomed the ball, but wasn't great at placement. That I was a little surprised, if I'm being honest with you, that the Giants didn't look to upgrade that spot. But
Okay.
certainly trying to develop him. He had some questionable moments last year where he dropped the ball trying to transfer it to his foot and had a punt blocked. But he can boom the ball. So, and then long snapper's the same, Casey Kreider. And then that's another spot they'll miss Love. He was the special teams captain. He was the personal protector for the punter. He played something like 1,200 snaps total between defense and special teams. That's all. That's going to take 3 or 4 guys to replace his 1,200 snaps between defense and offense. He was a core guy. I think he played 3 or 4 different units. So his special teams presence will be missed almost as much as his defensive presence.
And do they have a number one returner, a legit number one guy?
They haven't had a number one returner since like Dave Meggett. So,
okay.
No, it's always been a problem. I guess really the last guy was probably Dwayne Harris in like 2016 or 2017. My 5-6 years around the Giants, they've never had somebody who is a dynamic returner. They never have. It's always cobbled together. They thought it would be Kadarius Toney. It wasn't. I guess Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt has the speed. We haven't really talked about it.
Yeah.
The 3rd round pick. He has the speed to do it, but I think they want him to concentrate on his route running and becoming a complete receiver before they pull him into special teams. But he has the speed. He'd be a dynamic returner. If he's not, if they wanted to pivot and say, hey, kid, come, we need you to make a rookie impact, that's the spot he could do it, I guess. And they have other guys who I don't know if they'll be on the team. Like they might be like practice squad game day elevations to be returned. Like Khalil Pimpleton, Jaden Mickens have the experience to do it. They tried Adoree Jackson last year down there, and it became a total disaster because he tore his MCL.
Yeah.
Sprained his MCL, and he missed 7 games as their number 1 cornerback.
Can't do that.
Daboll has dug his heels in that's a possibility again. That would be you got to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. I can't see them doing that. So no, they don't really have, unless they're going to put one of those surprise guys on the team as a receiver or as a returner. I don't see where they have a dynamic returner again.
Yeah, if you're going to win, like you mentioned, the Pimpletons of the world, if you're going to even have any chance, you're going to have to score at least 1 touchdown in the preseason. You're going to have to do something spectacular, if not 2 or 3 spectacular plays, where they go, "Wow, this guy's just a weapon. We have to have him. We have to find a way to get this guy on the team." So
Yeah, and I don't. I mean,
otherwise, that's a long shot.
I'm suspect of that happening. I think
Yeah.
that's where they'll use one of their 2 or 3 game day elevations at least early in the season.
All right, so Ryan, I appreciate it. Again, as you mentioned, you're going to get a jump start with the Jets early on, and then the Giants. What is the official date? Camp date?
I believe it's July 26th.
Oh, okay. So still a couple weeks away. Again, that's when we're recording this. So you know what? It's always nice to hear when the off season goes through and nobody gets hurt. It's rare nowadays, to tell you the truth. Not that we have a whole lot of history yet, but that's the one thing that they've done a good job of is limiting the ridiculous injuries during the spring.
Well, the Giants are one of the most injured teams in the NFL year in and year out for the last 5 to 6 years, and they made it through this whole spring without any kind of serious injury. So yes, that is a source of pride and optimism around the building for sure.
All right, Ryan, thanks a lot. Again, check out the description area. You can find the links of how to hook up with Ryan's latest articles, and you can follow him, of course, also on Twitter. You can check that out. That's been on the ticker during the show. Easy to find. And we'll talk to you, I'm sure, a bunch of times this year, not just Giant talk, of course, but we'll talk some NFL. We'll do another preseason show. That's becoming an annual thing. We'll get Mark on, get the 3 of us on again. Give our silly predictions. Actually, did you pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl last year?
Well, I did not. No.
Okay.
No, I did not. No. I picked I believe my preseason pick was atrocious.
Don't say the Packers.
I believe I picked Packers Chargers last season.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but those are good picks, though. I mean, who wants to pick the Chiefs?
Well, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to be your chalk guy. So
that's anybody can do that.
You can still do better than Packers Chargers. I mean,
I guess maybe you're early. You never know. But then again, Aaron Rodgers is gone, and that's a whole new story. All right, Ryan. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks.